Welcome into the Fantasy Football Diagnostics Podcast, where we provide you with your weekly diagnosis of everything fantasy football. Whether it's season-long leagues, dynasty, DFS, or sometimes even IDP, we got you covered all year long. Let's do it. Let's get to it. Welcome into the Fantasy Football Diagnostics Podcast. I'm your host, John June, and of course, got my guy, Greg Penniman. Greg, what is good, bro?
What's going on? It was a good fantasy week for my teams. Hopefully it was the same for the other teams. You know, we got some Monday night miracles, hopefully some Monday night matchups going on right now. It's not over yet, but definitely a exciting week one. Some great games, absolutely. We already had one to go to overtime. Thought the Bengals were going to tie again in week one again, but yeah, they came through. So I mean, the week one was a good week.
Yeah, man, absolutely, man. Week one was eventful. It was good to have football back again, and so definitely excited about breaking it all down here as we do on our weekly recaps. And so obviously, if you don't know, if you're new to the show, we're going to go over the Studs and Jags. The Studs, obviously, that's self-explanatory, but the Jags, you might ask yourself, John, these players don't all play for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Yes, I understand. Jags is an acronym for just a guy, somebody that you could have just literally went to waivers and picked up another player as opposed to just putting this player in your lineup because they were simply just a guy for you on Sunday. So, or potentially even Thursday. So going through each position group, we're going to break that down. Also going to cover some news and some injuries. Then we'll get to waivers. And so starting with the quarterback position, like we always do, Greg, the quarterback stud of the week, the number one quarterback on the week, Kyler Murray, 289 passing yards, 4 touchdowns, 1 interception. Also had 20 yards rushing and an additional rushing touchdown, 33.56 fantasy points. What were your impressions of Kyler Murray on Sunday, man?
Oh man, Kyler Murray is, every time I see him, it's just a blur. You think about, like, every time he runs the ball, the run that he had to Rondo Moore after scrambling for about 40 yards in the backfield. He's just so elusive, and it's just a surprise to see how much of a blur he is every time I watch him. He's an amazing quarterback with his legs, was able to get it down the field passing wise as well. If you're a Kyler Murray manager, and you waited a bit, didn't go for Patty, didn't go for Josh Allen, but got Kyler Murray, you're feeling really good right now because you didn't have to pay that huge price for a quarterback, but did pay a good one. But yeah, Kyler Murray's the man right now.
Yeah, man, picking up where he left off at the first 8 games of last year, just being the QB1, getting it. I mean, this time though, last year we were so used to him running for 2 touchdowns, 3 touchdowns, or, having 50, 60, 80 rushing yards, only had 20 rushing yards today. He was third in fantasy points per dropback at the position with just over 1 fantasy point per dropback, which is pretty crazy.
Yeah.
But if you look at just the fantasy points from passing, he was 4th with just under 0.8 fantasy points per game. So he was getting it done through the air. 4 passing touchdowns definitely helped get that done. But I think Kyler Murray, is going to continue to carry people to these huge weeks.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Every week, man. Another guy who will continue to do that for you was the QB2 on the week, Patrick Mahomes, 337 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, 18 rushing yards, and a smooth rushing touchdown, man.
Oh yeah,
just savvy. Yeah. Good for 33.28 fantasy points on the day. Hey, this game kind of went how I called it. I did take the under here, so there were more points than I was anticipating. But Patrick Mahomes absolutely just dominated here. Greg, what were your impressions of the game?
Yeah. I was watching a game with my roommate, and as they were going down more points by 12, I'm like, oh yeah, this is how we like it. We like when the Chiefs are down, other than the Super Bowl, but still, we like when the Chiefs are down on a regular basis. Pat Mahomes gonna have to put up points, and they came back like without a doubt. I had like all the confidence. I'm sure everyone in the crowd did too. And then that play of the game with the special teams just turned it around. And then also probably the play of the week with that Pat Mahomes one-legged 70-yard throw to Tyreek Hill. It was amazing. That's just classic Mahomes and Hill. Doing what they got to do. Patrick Mahomes, man.
Yeah, man. Like he was asked after the game about the meme. I'm gonna paraphrase here, but the reporter said, "Hey, have you seen the meme going around that screw it, Tyreek's down there somewhere?"
Yep.
And he said, "Hey, man, sometimes it be like that." So that's totally fun. Probably gonna kill me in our League of Extraordinary People League, our league of record here on the Fantasy Football Diagnostics podcast, as my team makes a valiant effort against Shivan. So we'll see what happens here. But moving on to the QB3 on the week, and Greg, this was a sleeper quarterback for you on the season. I said before, prior to this game, during our breakdown, I said, hey, I think you could play this guy the way I think this game might go. And if you did, he really came through for you. Jameis Winston, not a lot of passing yards needed, just 148, but he was efficient on them. 5 touchdown passes, 0.
That's the most impressive stat line. Not right there.
0 interceptions.
He could have threw 10 touchdowns.
Also added 37 rushing yards. So that's a pretty good day there for Jameis Winston. 29.62 fantasy points on the day. Led all quarterbacks in fantasy points per dropback at 1.48.
Oh, yeah.
So almost a point and a half for every dropback. Look, Sean Payton accentuates the strengths of his quarterback, whether you're Drew Brees, Teddy Bridgewater, Taysom Hill, or now Jameis Winston. He will accentuate what you do well, and Jameis Winston throws the ball down the field, and he's a playmaker. And so, I think, like you said, the most important stat there, no interceptions. And so, Greg, what were your overall impressions of Jameis, and is this kind of what you envisioned when you picked him to be your sleeper quarterback?
Yeah, the only risk that he had, I think, was just winning the job against Taysom Hill. But once he had that job, Sean Payton, the system is just perfect for any quarterback. Yeah, as you said it, on 20 pass attempts, the man only had 20 pass attempts, got 5 touchdowns. Definitely not going to expect that level of efficiency going down the field, going down the line, but expect more pass attempts probably in more competitive games. So they did really blow out the Green Bay Packers unexpectedly. But yeah, this is going to be a player he needs to be rostered, and he needs to be over 50% for sure. He's under that, so we're gonna have to talk about him. But yeah, Jameis Winston down the line is a guy.
No, definitely, man. Let's move on to round out this top 12 here, Greg. And so number 4, I bet you nobody played him. Jared Goff. Number 5, my quarterback start of the week, and Jalen Hurts.
Yes, sir.
Number 6, Dak Prescott. Number 7, Tom Brady. Number 8, Russell Wilson. Number 9, Matthew Stafford. Number 10, Tyrod Taylor. Number 11, Kirk Cousins. And number 12, Daniel Jones. Just keep in mind, Lamar Jackson, Derek Carr have not played yet as we record this. So we're recording this Monday night, just before the Monday night game. So I think what's pretty crazy to me is if you told me on Friday morning that Tom Brady and Dak Prescott would be the quarterback 6 and 7, I would probably have a hard time believing you, because they had pretty big weeks themselves.
Yeah.
Greg, what were anybody in the top 12 stick out to you before we get to these honorable mentions? Did any of these top 12 performances stick out?
Blown away that Daniel Jones is able to make it to the top 12 with that game. Like, football wise, he played a horrible game, and he got that garbage time rushing touchdown with 0 seconds on the clock. So that's really what bumped him up. That was a true garbage time play. Yeah, man. I just wanted to be on the air and say that he ain't it, man. That's all I want to say, man. I'm off the Daniel Jones bandwagon. It's over, man. Yo, he's not the quarterback.
Are we retiring the Danny Dimes? Is
Yes,
that
we're
done?
retiring Danny Dimes. That's over. That's done.
Okay.
But
More like pennies on a dollar.
yeah, man, a dollar and not a dream, man. That's what. But the fact that he got in the top 12, that's kudos to him. People that played him in those 2 quarterback leagues, for sure.
Yeah, man. Other things that stick out to me here, Kirk Cousins was another guy that I said, hey, I think you could play here, streamable option. But Tyrod Taylor definitely surprises me. I mean, I was bashing the dude before the game. Hey, I do not want to play Tyrod Taylor. Don't want to attach myself to Tyrod Taylor. But this kind of just shows us how bad Jacksonville's defense continues to be. But if that happens, though, we could get on these honorable mentions. Then Trevor Lawrence can continue to do what he did on Sunday, which was air it out, 3 touchdown passes to finish as a QB 13 or QB 14 here. And Sam Darnold, your quarterback stream of the week, comes in as the QB 15 here, Greg. So, also, the thing I thought was interesting that Teddy Bridgewater is able to finish as a QB 13 and Daniel Jones was the QB 12 in what was a game, in like such an ugly game.
Word. Teddy Bridgewater was the clear better quarterback in that game, and oh man, it was literally the last play of the game, 0 seconds on the clock, he got that rushing touchdown. So 6 points right there.
Oh man. All right, let's move on to the less than exciting part of this segment. The just the guys, man, the Jags, bro. And so I got some guys that I want to list here. Josh Allen. That's more of expectation based. He didn't have a terrible week, but he did not give you the advantage that you thought you were getting when you drafted Josh Allen. Finishes on the week as the quarterback 19. Ryan Tannehill, who Greg was your start of the week.
Yep.
That game was just ugly for the Titans.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what to think of it. Is Arizona's defense that improved, or are did the Titans just do that poor of a job executing on Sunday?
I do think that the Cardinals are a better defense, but and also we knew the Tennessee Titans defense was horrible. So speaking of Kyler Murray being number 1 quarterback, Tennessee's Titans defense is going to be a defense that needs to be attacked this year for all players. So yeah, for sure, and especially in the secondary. But yeah, Cardinals defense got better, but I think they'll figure it out. I mean, Mike Vrabel called out Julio Jones today. They'll be fine, I think.
Yeah, man. So he comes in as the quarterback 23. Justin Herbert comes in as the quarterback 24. I mean, we didn't really want to play Herbert, not against Washington.
Nah, tough matchup.
But like we were talking about off air, 47 pass attempts. That's great for Justin Herbert because that's a significant improvement from what we had last year. When you look at what Anthony Lynn was doing, Anthony Lynn and company was doing from a play calling perspective. And then, 2 veteran guys that probably failed you, Matt Ryan and Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers with 1.32 fantasy points on Sunday. Matt Ryan with 7.3. So not great for either one of those guys. I know, Greg, that Matt Ryan was your bust coming into the year. Is this kind of, I know it's week 1 and we don't want to make any crazy, we don't want to overreact in any one way or the other, but does this kind of start to validate what you were thinking about Matt Ryan?
I think the narrative how fantasy's going, both those quarterbacks, especially more Matt Ryan, are not mobile quarterbacks, so they need to rely on that passing yards and those passing touchdowns. So if they don't get that, it's going to be it's going to be bust day. You're going to get on single-digit points possibly for your quarterback position, which is a loss. And you don't want to get those wings where you're ever in a chance to get a loss. So yeah, that was probably kind of what I was going into formula-wise for why I took Matt Ryan on my bus. Also with Julio Jones not being there, I mean, really dominated on that first drive. I was watching a lot of that Eagles game, Eagles Falcons game because of hurt season, but yeah, they weren't able to get back to him against a Eagles secondary that not the best, but they played pretty well.
Yeah, I thought that game was interesting, and that's an interesting point that you bring up too, right? Because it even goes beyond the box score, right? Like
Yeah,
Matt Ryan, his offensive line was overmatched all day, and the fact that he can't move
yeah,
means he can't even create something out of nothing,
no,
and so his fantasy day is done.
yep,
Like if Matt Ryan has a bad matchup, I mean Aaron Rodgers can move a little bit. He's obviously getting a little bit older, but if their offensive lines are overmatched and they're going to be under pressure the whole day, their fantasy days are not going to be that good. And
yeah,
we've even seen that from Aaron Rodgers in the past, that we saw in San Fran a couple years ago. There was another game last year. I forget which game it was, but Tampa Bay.
yeah.
So it definitely can ruin the day there for these quarterbacks that are less than mobile. Greg, I forgot to ask you, did you bring up an honorable mention? Is there somebody that you wanted to highlight?
I mean, Joey B always getting a dub, able to get 2 touchdowns. He played pretty well game, no turnovers, so that was good. I think for him, his development, and him getting a solid streamable quarterback.
Yeah, Joe Burrow finished as the quarterback 14 on the week.
Yep.
Just one spot ahead of my quarterback stream of the week in Carson Wentz and Zach Wilson. So, just figured I'd throw that in there. It's just, just thought that I would educate the people for a little bit. Let's move on to the running back position, man.
Yes, sir.
And the running back stud, it's the first name is very easy because it's one that we're used to. Christian McCaffrey, 98 rushing yards, had 9 receptions for 89 receiving yards, 27.7 fantasy points in this one, PPR points, and he had 100% of the running back opportunities here for the Carolina Panthers. And if you are a Christian McCaffrey manager or you just enjoy playing him in DFS every week, that is the fantastic news right there. Didn't even score a touchdown in this one. So
that's the best. Oh, that's just beautiful, man. It's beautiful.
27.7, doesn't even have to score a touchdown. I mean, if you were watching this game, don't know how many people were. I know I was. But he just every time Darnold was in some kind of pressure, It was just like, oh, where's 22?
Yep.
Let me get the ball to 22. And so I think that's going to be a common theme this year with Christian McCaffrey out there for the Carolina Panthers. Greg, what were your impressions of CMC?
I mean, you summed it up pretty much. There's really, nothing more to be said about McCaffrey. We know coming off an injury, no matter what, that this is the one guy we could always take number one year in and year out. He's been the number one pick for probably the last 3-4 years now, and I would do it every time. If he got injured again this year, I would do it again next year. It doesn't matter. Christian McCaffrey's that bad man.
There's nobody like him in terms of the volume that he gets, and then the efficiency that he gets on top of it. I mean, yeah, it's
true
just
workhorse.
True workhorse in a day and an age where we don't have many of those. But somebody else who did perform workhorse status, Greg, your start of the week at the running back position. This weekend, people either they love Joe Mixon or they continue to love to hate Joe Mixon, because I don't know what excuses you could come up for in this one. 127 rushing yards, a rushing touchdown, 4 catches on 4 targets for 23 receiving yards, 25 PPR points here, and 84.6% of the running back opportunities. That was the fifth highest total on the week. Greg, what do you have to say about this one?
Come on, man. The volume is king, man. It's one of the rules in fantasy. I think we need to, also just make sure we know 29 carries. Like, that's basically, he almost had 30 carries. Like, that's ridiculous. They're going to be in a lot of competitive games this year, Cincinnati. They're going to be, I think, a better team. And it starts with Joe Mixon. It starts with this running game and his volume. He got 34 touches. 33 touches. So yeah, I'm very happy for Joe Mixon. All you gotta do is stay healthy. That was always the one thing with Joe Mixon that I had, but I don't. There's on the field, there's no issues with him for me.
Yeah, I mean that's with any player, right? I mean, Edwin Poras came on. He said only 2% of NFL games are injury free. So basically, there's an 100% chance that you could get injured playing in an NFL football game. Joe Mixon, he's a good player. You know how I feel about Joe Mixon.
Yeah,
I think that he's a good player. I just think the only issue has really been opportunities when you look at it. You know, opportunity like when he is getting the ball, he is productive.
right.
He has good fantasy moments. It's when the moments when he's getting like 12, 15 carries, no receptions that you're like, well, yeah, that's like any other RB2 in the NFL. Like I don't want that. But Joe
Not in the
Mixon
Joe Burrow era, yo. Not in the Joe
no,
Burrow era.
absolutely not, man. So Greg, let's move on to the RB3 on the week, man. And this one, I don't think many people had it coming. I mean, Tom Pelissero had a report that he would be the lead guy here. Talking about Jamal Williams for the Detroit Lions. 54 rushing yards, 1 rushing touchdown, 8 receptions for 56 receiving yards, 25 PPR points. So ties there actually with Joe Mixon to be the RB2 thus far. What were your thoughts here of not DeAndre Swift, but Jamal Williams here? I know I say this because I know that you have a lot of DeAndre Swift.
I do.
Typically, you'd be upset about this, but as if people don't already know, you'll soon to find out. DeAndre Swift had a pretty good week himself. What were your thoughts here of Jamal Williams? Can these two potentially coexist? Or was this just a nature of the game script?
Yeah, I think these guys can coexist. One, because the Detroit Lions are going to be a very bad football team this year. Especially they can't guard anyone on the defense, so they're always going to be a negative game script. Both, I think Hawkinson, Jamal Williams, and Swift, they had a combined 24 receptions, so they're going to be getting the ball. You have a weak receiving core. The running backs are going to get, I think, a lot of reception opportunities, along with Hawkinson being the main pass catcher. Yeah, this definitely could work. No Jeff Okudah, he just tore his Achilles. Like they're going to be bad.
Yeah, and I think Jeff Okudah was struggling even before the Achilles injury. I don't know if you've seen it, Greg, but there's a video of him getting just completely chewed out by his defensive back coach. Just like
I didn't see that.
No, I'll send it to you later. But he's just completely like yeah. I've never seen an NFL player get yelled at like that during an NFL game. But yeah, I think there's an opportunity here for these guys to coexist. 40% of the touches here in the backfield. Like you said, the Lions are going to be bad. The defense is going to be bad. It's going to be one that we attack in fantasy, but it's also going to be a reason why we could probably attack these other pieces in fantasy like TJ Hawkinson and DeAndre Swift, and sometimes even Jamal Williams here, who finishes as the RB3. So I'm sure we'll be talking about Jamal Williams in a little bit. But Greg, DeAndre Swift finishes as the RB4. Nick Chubb, the RB5, Melvin Gordon, the running back 6, 7, Dalvin Cook, 8, David Montgomery, 9, Alvin Kamara, 10, Jonathan Taylor, 11, Miles Sanders, and 12, Kareem Hunt. Before we get to the honorable mentions, any of these guys in the top 12, any of their performances really stick out to you here?
Definitely the David Montgomery. That's big for him. I think, we know he's a safe RB2 week in and week out, but if he can get you those RB1 upside weeks, that really is nice for the draft price you got him for. So definitely like that his performance there.
Yeah, man, and he looked really good last night too.
He did.
We obviously know he's a violent runner, and that's part of the reason that makes him so good is that yards after contact. But he looked explosive yesterday. He had bursts, ran with good vision. So I really liked what I saw from David Montgomery yesterday. Miles Sanders, man, coming in as the RB11 here, only had 60% of the running back opportunities. I believe it was 61%. So that's not great, but this was a game that they were winning. He was the lead carry getter with 15, And so, I'm if Miles Sanders is getting the ball, talent's never been a question. It's been about the opportunities and is he going to get the high leverage opportunities? And so on Sunday he was. Yeah, I mean nothing else really sticks out. The Browns running backs can continuing to still do what they do.
Yep.
Produce two top 12
Yep.
running backs in a loss. I don't know how you could even manage to do that, but they did it. Let's get to these honorable mentions, Greg. Anybody really stick out to you at the running back position that didn't finish in the top 12 on a positive note?
Well, you talked about Miles Sanders, got Keenan Gainwell. I think played pretty well. I think just solidified took out Boston Scott completely. That was like another flip that week one you find out right away. One of those knowns we know now. That Kenneth Gainwell, they drafted him in that price in the NFL draft, and they're going to use him for sure. Got the 9 carries and also got the 2 receptions. So he'll be definitely used for in both.
Yeah, and then the big one I think that really sticks out to me, the glaring one, is Elijah Mitchell for the San Francisco 49ers.
Yeah.
Finishes as the RB13 on the week before the week is done. Led the running backs, led all Niners running backs in touches and opportunities. Had 19 carries. No receptions, but just no targets, but just 19 carries here, 82% of the opportunities here for the 49ers. We all know Raheem Mostert, who suffered an injury during the game. He will be out for the first 8 weeks, it seems. Will be headed to the IR. And then Trey Sermon, who the Niners traded up for in the 3rd round of the NFL draft, he was a healthy scratch on Sunday after operating as pretty much the number 2 back for most of the year. And JaMychal Hasty got some work in as well. Somebody that propped up a lot last year. So, we'll see how this plays out. But right now, it seems like Elijah Mitchell is going to be the lead guy in what we know is a run-heavy Niners offense.
Yeah, we definitely, I've been through it every many years. 49ers always have at least 3. The 49ers running back as a whole unit will be a great fantasy running back, but it's going to be split between a couple guys here and there. You don't know who's going to be. Elijah Moore, Elijah Mitchell hopefully is going to be able to hopefully get a lead in role, but we really don't know what Kyle Shanahan is going to do. I'm speaking from 49ers running back experience, like it's hard to get the number 1.
Yeah, it's tough, and we'll talk about it during waivers some more. But it's tough to really invest in that Niners running back situation when you don't know what you're going to get. But Darrell Henderson, another guy, stuck out to me. The running back 14 on the week, 81% of the opportunity, 84%. Oh no, sorry, 94% of the opportunities. That was second behind Christian McCaffrey. So that was one of the things that we talked about watching going into this game. We both agreed that he could be an RB2, but we were just watching what the usage for Sony Michel was going to be like. Sony Michel carried the ball 1 time, touched the ball 1 time, while Darrell Henderson touched it 17 times. And we obviously see this offense is going to be much better with Matt Stafford at the helm. And so with that, all of that, I'm into Darrell Henderson. I've always been into Darrell Henderson, the player. This kind of just solidifies how I feel about Darrell Henderson as a fantasy asset this season.
Yeah, I'm with you. He's definitely going to be, I think, could give you some, a great flex consideration week in and week out, especially in this Rams offense. And hopefully get you some RB2 upside. Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah, I mean, finished as the RB14 on this week thus far. If he's going to continue to touch the ball like that, then I'm locked and loaded as an RB2 for sure. Yeah, I mean, Chase Edmonds and James Conner each touched the ball 50-50 split, 16 opportunities apiece. But Chase Edmonds was the more productive back here. I'm not really sure what James Conner did with his opportunities.
Not too much.
53 rushing yards.
Yeah. I don't think he had any receptions either.
Yeah, no receptions there. So
Yeah.
game wasn't in prime time, so he finished it. Was the running back 37 on the week. Mark Ingram was another one I don't think anybody saw coming. I mean, we all thought
No.
that this running back
No.
backfield was going to be pretty much Philip Lindsay and David Johnson, but
Yeah.
Mark Ingram finishes as the
26
RB16,
carries.
one
Crazy.
spot behind Chase Edmonds. Yeah, had 26 carries, led the backfield with 60% of the opportunities. So, yeah, it seems that Mark Ingram will have some sort of role in this Houston Texans offense, and we'll see how many weeks we try to go to it. They're already 12.5-point underdogs this week against the Cleveland Browns. So
Yeah. They were able to win handily, so that did help Mark Ingram get those carries in the second half. But he's definitely not a negative game script person. So we projected the Texans would be super bad this year. So yeah, I mean that's why we do That's why people confuse the Jags for the actual Jags. So the Jags have just always been bad. So
yeah, man. I mean, can we just say I was like I told my brother he was trying to pick. He was hammering the Jags in parlays this weekend, and I was just like, hey man,
it's still the
you
Jags.
gotta bet on Urban Meyer to bet on the Jags. He's like, oh, I'm betting against the Texans. And I was like, well, you're betting on
On
Urban
the Jags.
Meyer.
Yeah.
And his NFL process has not showed me that he is ready for this stage yet. And it could just be the little stuff that he's not doing that could lead to a blowout loss like this.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, yeah, I think it's going to be a rough year for the Jags. But his name's already floating in USC rumors because USC fired their head coach today, and Urban Meyer and USC are trending on Twitter. So let's get to the Jags, the running back Jags. And the list is long. Derrick Henry, Ezekiel Elliott, we touched on, James Robinson, Saquon
Najee
Barkley,
Harris,
you win, you
Saquon
bet.
Barkley.
Running back 48, he finished. Aaron Jones, Najee Harris, who was my running back start of the week, Javonte Williams, Trey Sermon, and Zach Moss, both healthy scratches there. We didn't talk about Devin Singletary, but I'm sure, I mean, what do you think of that situation? Because that's, to me, is probably the most intriguing one. Devin Singletary, 72 rushing yards, 20 RB26 on the week, 11 fantasy points, and a bad loss for the Bills. Zach Moss is a healthy scratch though. So, how are you handling that situation going forward, Greg?
Yeah, if I'm a Devin Singletary owner, manager, you're pretty happy. Having one running back on that depth chart kind of helps him. I mean, Josh Allen, I think is still gonna vulture a lot of touchdowns in the red zone, but as far as the yardage and stuff, if it's shifted to one person, that's pretty good to bump Devin Singletary into RB3 flex category every week. And for Zach Moss owners, I would be definitely panicking. Healthy scratch is a healthy scratch. The one thing you want is for him to play. So I think this year I don't think you can be very forgiving with if you need to cut people or not. But I would probably hold on for him 1 week. But if he get another healthy scratch, I would be ready to drop him. I'd be ready to drop him now.
I'm out.
Yeah.
I'm out.
Yeah.
Devin Singletary, 73% of the opportunities. We already could know based off the healthy scratch that Matt Breida is the number 2 running back. This is a team that only really carries 2 running backs week to week.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd be in on Devin Singletary. I'm out on Zach Moss. I'd probably even be more into Matt Breida. But the fact that there's a running back in this offense seeing north of 50% of the work, 55% of the work is fantastic because this is an offense conducive to fantasy points. Regardless of whether you are going to get running back or touchdown opportunities or not, if you're the running back getting the ball, receptions from Josh Allen and just rushing opportunities, you're going to produce It's just a matter of, are you going to get enough volume to make that happen? So between Derrick Henry, Zeke Elliott, Aaron Jones, I know how you feel about Saquon Barkley, so I'm not going to throw him into this mix. Which of these guys would you be the most concerned about? Or are you most concerned about? Are you not concerned about any of them? I don't want to force you to say you are concerned.
Yeah, I don't think I'm concerned about any of them. I'm with Saquon now on week 3. Week 3 on. I'm with you. I'm there, yo. But not Thursday night, and that's it. And we're good. We're good to go. But yeah, I think these guys will be fine. I think there's just products of the offense just being bad, not finding a lot of bad matchups, bad O-line play. They'll figure it out. Those guys.
Yeah, I mean, to your point, Saquon 60% of the touches this week on a short week. How they're probably going to see how he responds. Maybe he doesn't get a lot of work, but then he'll have 10 days. So week 3 would be a really good day. So let's put that in the memory bank there.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm with you, man. These guys were just in bad spots. That's what happens when you play running back. You're going to be, victim to the situation that your offense finds itself in.
Absolutely.
A lot of times. And so, not really going to be concerned there. People might be concerned about Najee Harris. He's a rookie. Week 1, doesn't have a great week. Don't even know where he finished. It was RB 40. But the important number where he did finish, running back 4 in opportunity share.
Yes, sir.
89.5%.
That's what we want.
17 opportunities there, 16 carries in his first game. I'm totally into that. That's exactly what we are anticipating. So if somebody's selling, I'm buying. Greg, let's move on to the wide receivers. Ooh. Amari Cooper finishes as the wide receiver 1 on the week. We already touched about his day, but just reminding people, 13 catches, 139 yards, 2 touchdowns, 38.9 PPR points. We talked about him already. We're not going to talk about him again. Tyreek Hill, wide receiver 2 on the week, 11 catches, 197 yards, 1 touchdown, 37.1 PPR points. What were your takeaways from Tyreek's performance?
Just like Mahomes, I expect this from Tyreek Hill. I was, in that first half, how he was getting the ball, I'm like, oh, this might be one of those 200-yard receiving days. And like to say that, I mean, that means Tyreek Hill does this. Like you can predict that he might get 200 yards in receiving, could happen. So he's just a stud of a receiver. Just the boom days just makes him arguably the number 1 receiver in fantasy every year. So it's just what you want.
Yeah, that was kind of my argument for having him as the number 1 receiver this year was, hey, if Mahomes goes berserk, you're going to want the piece of that just because having these blow-up games in your life, like these are week-winning weeks. Like if you had Tyreek Hill, It was pretty hard to lose. The number I think sticks out to me, 45% of Patrick Mahomes' targets, 15 of them. I want that. That's what I want.
Yeah. Word.
The wide receiver 3 on the week, man. Deebo Samuel coming through, 9 catches, 189 yards, and a receiving touchdown. The wide receiver 3 on the week, 31.9 PPR points. Led the Niners in targets, 52% target share total from the 49ers and 12 total targets. What were your takeaways from Deebo Samuel?
Great game. Could have even had more, except with that late fumble that almost cost the 49ers the game. But yeah, he had an awesome game. We knew the matchup was great. Detroit secondary, again, we talked about it. It's very bad. So I like it for him. He's definitely going to be a every week flex. I think wide receiver 2 upside for sure. High end wide receiver 2 upside, especially in weeks that San Fran is going to be winning from Jimmy G, Trey Lance. Doesn't matter. Like he'll be involved.
Yeah, Deebo Samuel is somewhat reminiscent of, not reminiscent. His situation kind of reminds me of like Amari Cooper, how people were so excited to draft CeeDee Lamb that they were just leaving Amari Cooper there. And it was the same thing with Brandon Ayuk. people were so excited, me included, to draft Brandon Ayuk, that Deebo Samuel was just there. And this was a guy that, just 2 years ago was the wide receiver that people wanted in the 49ers backfield at the end of his rookie year. Coming into last year, people still wanted him on their fantasy teams. Gets injured in the offseason, doesn't have a great year, but this year comes in, is supposedly in much better shape. Kyle Shanahan was very complimentary of his offseason. And so I'm excited to see a healthy Deebo Samuel out there, because when he's playing, he's one of the most dynamic players in the league. And so definitely excited about that. But rounding out this top 12 here, Greg, Adam Thielen coming in as the wide receiver 4. Corey Davis, my wide receiver start of the week, coming in at wide receiver 5. DeAndre Hopkins coming in as the wide receiver 6. Tyler Lockett, the wide receiver 7. Sterling Shepard, 8. Christian Kirk, 9. Cooper Kupp, your wide receiver start of the week, coming in at 10. Antonio Brown, 11. And Chris Godwin, 12. Greg, what were your thoughts?
Loving definitely Cooper Kupp. Just an awesome matchup in that slot. So Cooper Kupp definitely took advantage. Adam Thielen, man, this man is just a touchdown machine, man. When it gets down to red zone time, Kirk Cousins looking at one person, definitely Thielen to start as his first in that rotation. D-Hop is absolutely amazing with that back toe tap catch in the back of the end zone. Got 2 of them too. And Christian Kirk absolutely played a good game. Usually been in the past Christian Kirk haters, but definitely I like his play here. That number 2 receiver role is definitely wide open for him.
Yeah, man. I mean, I always say we don't hate players, hate prices. But definitely like all what you said. I mean, Adam Thielen. I mean, those Minnesota Vikings. I almost forgot what team they play for a second. Those Minnesota Vikings wide receivers are going to see some increase in touchdown production with the loss of Irv Smith, who is pretty heavily utilized down there, and Adam Thielen, who already has a rapport with Kirk Cousins down there, is going to continue to gobble up those targets.
Mm-hmm.
Tyler Lockett continuing to do Tyler Lockett and Russell Wilson things. Sterling Shepard, somebody you had been banging the drum for.
Yes, sir.
And I'm like, hey man, I don't want Sterling Shepard. I don't want him. But and the reason I didn't want him was because he does always, not always, he always seems like he suffers from some sort of lower extremity injury or concussion or something like that. So, but he came through here as a PPR weapon. Corey Davis, man, my wide receiver started came through big time.
Yes, sir.
Two touchdowns, 97 yards, 5 catches. Was the number 1 wide receiver here for Zach Wilson, who attempted 37 passes. So keep that in mind as we progress through this fantasy season. In terms of honorable mentions, I mean, I could be here all day if I named them all, but I'll just name a few. Mike Williams, Jamar Chase, Zach Pascal, Jarvis Landry, Devontae Smith, Brandon Cooks, Nelson Aguilar, and that's where I'm going to stop.
Yeah.
Greg, anybody that I missed from the wide receiver honorable mentions?
Well, my man DJ Shark, because he got so many targets though, even though the catch rate was pretty low. But yeah, he's hopefully back if they can get some connections, he's back at that number 1 receiver.
Well, Marvin Jones did lead the Jags wide receivers in targets, but DJ Shark was definitely a close second. It's going to fluctuate each week, and I mean between these 3 guys, because they're all so talented. It could go any way on this week, any one way. But I could also see DJ Shark being the guy. But you could say that for literally any one of them. But moving on to the Jags, man. Let's talk about those guys. And there were a few guys that were expecting to have big weeks. I mean, I was talked about Calvin Ridley and Justin Jefferson as potential starts of the week. Not one of those guys came through. I mean, Calvin Ridley suffered from Matt Ryan suffering. Justin Jefferson, I didn't really see much of that game, but had 5 catches, 71 yards. Just don't really know what was the contributing factor to his lack of big scoring. I mean, that's the thing, right? It was like Adam Thielen scores 2 touchdowns, but if you give one of those touchdowns to Jefferson, he has a much better day. Devontae Adams, again, you could pretty much there's sometimes you could just throw a whole offense in this category. And the Packers basically are one of those teams. Terry McLaurin did not have a fantastic day, 4 catches, 62 yards. But we also know Ryan Fitzpatrick left the game early. Taylor Heineke also did come in, did play relatively well as well, too. So
he did.
Not really going to make that an excuse, nor make that a reason why we would expect poor production from Terry McLaurin going forward. Any other guys disappoint you this week, Greg?
Definitely relied. I thought this would be a nice leap year for Pittman to start, Michael Pittman Jr., but it wasn't yet. Or, week one, Carson Wentz kind of spread it around a lot to Pascal and other guys. So I was disappointed with that performance. And Tyler Boyd, that was pretty much the other one. Not the safe, PPR receiver that we thought we were going to get. Jamar Chase catching the ball, getting those deep plays. Higgins getting separation intermediate, but definitely not anything much for Boyd.
Yeah, and Julio Jones, I think, is another guy you could throw in that category. AJ Brown, I guess you could kind of throw him in that category as well. Just the Titans offense for really. I mean, AJ Brown, if you're playing half PPR leagues or standard leagues, he scored a touchdown, so he had a decent day.
Yeah.
But yeah, Jerry Jeudy was on his way to having a really good day for the Broncos. Ends up getting injured, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But just thought about him there. Let's go to the tight end studs, Greg. And the number one tight end of the week, man, I feel like it's like 2012 all over again. But Rob Gronkowski, man, comes through, 8 catches, 90 yards, 2 touchdowns. We talked about him on Thursday, so not going to talk about him again. If you want to listen to what we had to say about the players from the Bucs and the Cowboys game, then you can go back and listen to our Thursday night recap, which was the first part of the game previews part 2. But TJ Hawkinson coming in as the tight end 2, 8 catches, 97 yards, and a touchdown reception there. 25.7 fantasy points in PPR leagues. Greg, what were your thoughts from TJ Hawk?
You absolutely love it. This man is, taking just more and more leaps to being that dominant tight end that we're going to be drafting, top 5 every year. The Lions, again, he's the best pass catcher on this team, option for Jared Goff, and they're going to be in a lot of negative game scripts. Got 8 receptions, so I expect close to 8 to 10 receptions every week in and week out, which is going to keep him with that steady floor, especially in PPR leagues.
Yeah, he definitely came through with a heavy target total. And just, again, like you said, with the way that this team is going to be constructed, the fact that they don't really have much by way of receivers and the fact that they're going to be throwing the ball a lot, TJ Hawkinson's probably one of their best pass catchers. So him along with DeAndre Swift. So that's going to be a trend that continues. The tight end 4 on the week, Juwan Johnson, who did mention here.
Shout out to the
yep. Dallas Goedert, the tight end 5. Noah Fant, the tight end 6. Logan Thomas, your tight end start of the week, comes in as tight end 7. Tyler Higbee, who we also mentioned, comes in as tight end 8. James O'Shaughnessy comes in as a tight end 9. Pharaoh Brown, tight end 10. David Njoku, tight end 11, and Jared Cook, who you also mentioned, tight end 12. It seemed really weird when I was doing this, but there were a lot of good tight end days this past weekend. Don't know what it was, but like I was thinking like, oh, touchdown or not category. Like, nah, these guys all legitimately had good weeks. Anything stuck out to you there from the tight end perspective?
No, yeah, I definitely like Jared Cook coming through. A good sleeper or a person that definitely be available in leagues if you want to get. That was pretty much Logan Thomas. That we talked about the catch off air. It was a great catch, just using his athleticism. His former quarterback is just crazy. His story, like how he just went from a former quarterback to a very good tight end in football.
Yeah, man. If you listen to this show, or you know anything about me, I love these versatile players, these players that have multi-positional backgrounds. And so Logan Thomas definitely fits that criteria. Former quarterback, was drafted as a quarterback, was always known to be an athlete, better athlete than a quarterback, and now is making it as an NFL tight end. Noah Fant stuck out to me. He's healthy. I think that's huge for Noah Fant. The talent is never a question. And with Jerry Jeudy being injured, I think that just bumps Noah Fant up some more here, to where he could really continue to be a top 5, top 6 tight end on a week-to-week basis. And then, getting to some honorable mentions, Dalton Schultz, Blake Jarwin, both guys I think had showed some good opportunities, and we know Dak likes to throw the tight end. I think both will continue to be involved, so definitely look out for those guys. Cole Kmet, who I also mentioned ahead of the Sunday night game, he had 7 targets, which was kind of what I was expecting there from him, and so I think he can continue to have a role in this offense going forward. And then Dawson Knox also seemed to have a decent week there, catching some balls from Josh Allen. Was there anybody else that stuck out from you from an honorable mention perspective, Greg?
No, I think you pretty much summed the most up. No, don't give too much love to the tight ends just yet. I usually quick to be when tight ends are back. You get hype, but yeah, I think you covered all the honorable mentions as well.
And then the Jags, man. My start of the week at the tight end position, Kyle Pitts. But this one a little upsetting, but the peripherals were fine here. Kyle Pitts comes in playing 90% of this. No, sorry, he ran a route on 90% of this. 90% of Matt Ryan's dropbacks. Played 71% of the offensive snaps, and played some snaps out wide, as well as some snaps in from the slot, not lining up as a traditional tight end. So had 8 targets, which was tied with Calvin Ridley for the team lead, or second to Calvin Ridley. But either way, Kyle Pitts the peripherals looked good, just had a disappointing game. George Kittle wasn't really needed much in this game. Deebo Samuel saw 12 targets, so most of the work was going there. But then Robert Tonyan, just throw him in the Green Bay had a bad week category. His role is not going to be to catch passes in garbage time. It's going to be to catch touchdowns in wins. And so, anything else that stuck out to you? Anybody else disappoint the tight end position, Greg?
Not too much. I mean, you're probably not drafting Eric Ebron, so I'm not gonna mention that. Yeah, I mean, that's really not a lot to. Jags probably in the tight end position probably be the lowest because we're not expecting too much out of after the top 12 guys.
Yeah, exactly. It's hard. I only really wrote these guys down because they have expectations. They were in people's lineups. Yeah. So one of them was my start of the week, but neither here nor there. Greg, let's talk about some of these injuries. Odell Beckham did not play, which I thought was really intriguing. So if that means that he's not 100%, how are you approaching Odell Beckham from a fantasy perspective?
Yeah, I mean, coming into I think both of us weren't really huge fans of Odell, just the Cleveland Brown Odell, just not getting volume when he's in. And he just, it's just been a not very consistent situation for him in Cleveland. If I'm a Odell manager, probably not the best price to buy because people are not going to buy him for very high right now either. So I think you're keeping him on your bench. I don't think he's a drop candidate just yet. Hopefully he can come back and play next week. And in the matchup, they're favored. So I think I would start him as a flex.
If Sterling Shepard is out there on waivers,
oh, he's on the list, definitely.
Okay, so
if Sterling Shepard is out there and I'm a Odell manager,
yes, are you dropping Odell Beckham to pick up Sterling Shepard?
No, not just yet.
I think I would do it, man.
You think we'd do it?
The bird in the hand is better than 2 in the bush.
Sterling Shepard is usually he's a high reception guy. But the yards per reception was the surprise for Sterling. Like, you're not expecting him to get 16.1 yards per reception. Like, I mean, I guess Jarvis Landry is the Sterling of
Like,
that
how
offense.
long can this go
Yeah,
on?
you're right. You're absolutely right.
Right? Like,
You're absolutely right.
week 3, week 4, I'm holding
And then you're
Odell
0-3. Yeah.
to see if he can help me out in 3 weeks. Like, not like, because even his first game back, you're not gonna be like, oh, I'm gonna play him.
You're not happy. I mean, I wasn't happy about draft. I wouldn't be drafting him too. But if you're in this situation, yeah, I think the leash should be short. I think the leash should be short. So I mean, I think if he's not playing next week, I'd be ready to drop him.
Yeah, because even then you're still dealing with he's out because he's not on IR. So it's like, he's out and he's healthy again. So even if you have an IR spot, you got to move him back to the active roster. That's just too much of a pain. And like, if people need wins, you need a wide receiver. You got to pick up somebody off waivers. Like Odell would probably be one of the first names I'd do to drop. I would drop, and then I would revisit him. When I know he's healthy again.
Yeah, I think definitely the wide receiver. I agree. Should have the shortest leash out of all of the positions because these wide receivers be putting up. It's deep. It's very deep. Yes, sir.
All right, Jerry Jeudy. He suffered an injury. He'll be out 4 to 6 weeks with what seems to be a high ankle sprain. The video looked really worse. It looked worse. Yeah. It looked it looked like it could have been as serious as a Dak injury almost. Yeah. But not to that severity, obviously. But he suffered a high ankle sprain, so seems like he'll be back in 4 to 6 weeks. According to Edwin Poras, there doesn't seem any reason to try to actively buy low on him. He should be back to form within 5 to 6 weeks of the injury. So looks like just the back half of the season there. Ryan Fitzpatrick suffered a hip injury, so he'll be out 6 to 8 weeks. I'm sure we'll talk about what that. Is Taylor Heinicke on the waiver list?
He's not. I mean, but he could. I mean, for two
quarterback leagues. Yeah. But what does it mean for? I guess. Are you nervous about these Washington pieces if Taylor Heinicke is the quarterback?
I'm nervous for anyone not named Terry McLaurin and Logan Thomas because Logan Thomas think he's going to be a touchdown threat. I think he did well with him in spots last year. And Terry McLaurin is just Terry McLaurin. The catch he made one of the best catches of the weekend. Literally vertical. I think he was horizontal to the ground and he made that catch. So
with a defender completely going through the ball, completely any other person would be like, I can't see the ball.
Yep.
What's happening?
Yep.
Not Terry McLaurin.
No, not Terry McLaurin. Yeah. So I think it bumps down McLaurin's upside a little bit because the deep ball, but I think Taylor Heinicke showed us something in that playoff game against Tampa. I think he's a solid quarterback.
Yeah, I think Taylor Heinicke is going to be okay. I'm not concerned overly because I think that this is a very concentrated offense between Antonio Gibson, Terry McLaurin, and Logan Thomas. So, all right, Josh Jacobs. Oh no, sorry. We won't talk about Josh Jacobs. He's playing, but Raheem Mostert, he's out 8 weeks, so he suffered an injury there in a game with against the Detroit Lions. So let's just go right into waivers here. How are you approaching? Let's start with the running back position. Who's the number one guy to you on waivers, Greg?
I think we gotta just because of the hype in the Elijah Mitchell with the 49ers running back. He's only 7% rostered, had 19 carries for the 104 yards and the 1 touchdown we talked about. Trey Sermon, we don't know what his situation is going to be, especially with the Trey Sermon manager. You want to make this ad if he's going to be healthy scratch. You might have to want to drop Trey Sermon for Elijah Mitchell. And we know that Mostert is going to be out for the 8 weeks. I think we have to consider Elijah Mitchell as getting carries, and if you need RB depth, he can be RB3 in spots where there's going to be great matchups for the 49ers. After that, I would say Mark Ingram is another RB3 depth that you could add. Only 20% rostered. Got the 26 carries for 85 yards and 1 touch. Think he'd be excellent addition in non-PPR leagues if people still play that. But if you need running back depth for PPR leagues, he could be definitely an ad. For that PPR back, James White is back. You saying how Mac Jones is going to help him out the most. I think that's definitely bodes well here. He's only 34% rostered, got 7 targets, caught 6 of them. And that's excellent right there. 42 yards. That's a solid floor for him. He got 12 points in a full PPR league. So yeah, continue to have him there for RB depth and low end flex numbers because he can get in the end zone too. And lastly, Kenneth Gainwell. He's 8% rostered. Completely took over for Boston Scott role, and if we had intrigue in Boston Scott and he's not playing, I think we should have intrigue in Kenneth Gainwell. Got the high usage, and he only played 25 snaps and got 11 touches in those 25 snaps. So when he's on the field, he's being used. So that's good for him.
Yeah, definitely there. And I failed to mention it before, but we're going to do a little game where we draft some of these waiver wire players, just so you get an idea how we feel about each player individually and how we might rank them even. So, Greg, what about wide receivers? Who's the top ads there?
Wide receivers, number 1, Sterling Shepard. I think 39% rostered, led that team in targets with the 9, had 7 receptions, which is not surprising, but got down the field, got over 100 yards receiving, which is definitely unlike Sterling, but he got that, made big play for a touchdown. I think he's going to continue to be this target eater for Daniel Jones with an offensive line that struggled. They might have to get the ball out quick for Daniel Jones. He'd be a good safety net for Sterling Shepard, and if he can keep getting yardage, and yeah, that's a good price for a free price if you can get in waivers to start in flex situations. After that, Christian Kirk. The Arizona Cardinals are playing Minnesota in week 2, so that's a great matchup for that entire Arizona offense, and he can easily be only 14% rostered. I want every piece part of this offense if they're clicking in Arizona with Kyler Murray. And 2 honorable mentions: Nelson Aguilar for the Patriots. He played well, and Jalen Reagor. They're 33% and 21% rostered respectively. Jalen Reagor did come through with Devontae Smith. I think they were both used well with the 2 tight ends.
Nice. And what about the tight end position?
The tight end position, first 26% roster, Jared Cook. He's one of my sleepers coming into the year. I think you got to consider him. He's attached to Justin Herbert, and he was utilized, and was able to get 5 receptions, 56 yards in a full PPR league. That's really good for a quarterback. A tight end. I will want that for my tight end. So yeah, I think he can give you safe floor numbers attached to the Herb, and he can get in the end zone when they're in high scoring games. After that, I think Jawan Johnson. You mentioned him being attached to the Saints. First of all, he does have 2 positions in some leagues, wide receiver and tight end, so you got the flexibility there. And he's only 11% rostered. Someone you can get, especially in deeper leagues and anywhere that if you need to plug and play someone at the tight end position. And James O'Shaughnessy, he has 6 receptions for Jacksonville. If he's going to be the number 1 pass catcher as far as the tight end, number 1 pass catching tight end for the Jacksonville Jaguars, I would want that, especially if Trevor Lawrence is going to be throwing it over 50 times.
For sure. And then what about quarterback?
Quarterback, you already know. Famous Jameis is right under that 43%. So you got to put him. Yes, eat those W's, eat them up, yo. Famous Jameis, number 1. Again, arguably Jameis's best game as far as efficiency. So you got to put him in there. He's going to continue to succeed. They're playing Carolina in week 2, so a good matchup there. A solid. They should be in positive game script. After that, Jared Goff. He's only 7% rostered. Threw 57 times for 338 yards, 3 touchdowns to pick. We talk about how bad the Detroit Lions are going to be. So he's going to be in negative game script all year. No Jeff Okudah. Yeah. So, and they play Green Bay in week 2. Green Bay is probably going to be favored. So yeah, there'll be points to be had in that game as well. After that, Teddy Bridgewater, 11% rostered, 28 for 36, 264, 2 touchdowns and no picks. That sounds like a typical Teddy Bridgewater line to me. Over 250 and 2 touchdowns. So I think you can consider giving him that streaming confidence that we gave him last year with Carolina for multiple weeks. And if you need a quarterback desperation, Teddy Bridgewater is going to be there for you. I think in some, or not even in 2 quarterback leagues, in standard leagues. And then the two quarterback league options, Tyrod Taylor. and Taylor Heineke, I think, would be guys that you can add, especially if you're the Ryan Fitzpatrick manager.
Definitely, man. All right, let's get into this draft here, and I think I'm going to take the number one pick here, just so that we'll know that the same weeks I have the number one pick in both the waiver draft and the and get money here. So with the number one pick in our waiver draft, I'm actually going to take Elijah Mitchell here. Running backs, I have to. You can never have enough depth. They become trade pieces potentially even. Especially if I roster, I know you said before you might drop Trey Sermon. If I would roster both, because Trey Sermon's gonna get active now. They lost Raheem Mostert, so he bumps up one spot of the depth chart, and we know this backfield could change at any moment. So I would at least roster him, pick up Elijah Mitchell, and then now I have 2/3 of the backfield. I think you could also get away with picking up JaMychal Hasty, because again, this thing can flip at any given moment here. So yeah, Elijah Mitchell. I don't know how long it'll last, but I'm willing to bite the bullet here, because 8 weeks without Raheem Mostert is a long time.
That is a long time. That means, just when he comes back, you never know how that rotation will change. He might not even come back to his role. So definitely, I like that. I think running backs have top priority in waivers, getting that depth, injuries, changes. So I'm gonna take James White at the 34%, just because I know I could always use some PPR depth. It's just running back depth in general. Just plug and play for bye weeks, plug and play for if a late injury happens. It's just a safe pick.
No, James White is definitely a safe PPR pick. I mean, especially if you are in PPR leagues, he's going to get 6 to 8 catches a week.
Yeah,
6 to 8 points, and it's just bankable production there from James White. With the second pick, man, I think I'm going to go Sterling Shepard here, man. I think you have to go with the wide receiver PPR machine. I mean, again, if you're just looking for somebody to play this week, if you had an injury or you need a flex or, something, then you definitely could throw him in there.
Yeah, definitely love that. Since you took that number one receiver, especially if you're in 2 quarterback leagues, but especially I think if you're in a 1 quarterback league and you have Matt Ryan, go get you James Winston, man. Do what you got to do. Get you James Winston. If you not Aaron Rodgers or anybody like that, I think the Matt Ryan manager should go and get that guy.
Yeah, no, definitely, man. And for the sake of time, we'll cut it here. But I just want to mention, I failed to mention, I don't know why, maybe the pain. I just blocked it from my memory. But don't think I purposefully left Brandon Ayuk off the Jags list. He definitely made it on. He's definitely on the Jags list.
It's because he probably wasn't even reported. That's why so you couldn't even.
You got to get the target right to
Yeah.
So other than that, you're just like a participant in the game.
Yeah.
But I mean, Brandon Ayuk. I just want to speak on this one topic, this one subject here before we close it out. What do you do with Brandon Ayuk? Do not drop Brandon Ayuk. No. I'm 100% convinced. I'm of the mind. So leading up to the game against San Fran, I did not think Brandon Ayuk did not think he was gonna play. I was a little bit nervous, but then he started getting some full practices in the week of the game. But you have to remember he was out for 10 days before that. So Kyle Shanahan said that they didn't want to tire him out. They said that Trent Sherfield also earned the right to play some more snaps there too. So I think it's a combination of things, but I would not drop Brandon Ayuk. I think he'll be fine. We'll just reassess as the week goes on. Greg, anything to add to Brandon Ayuk?
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Do not panic. Week 1 panic with Brandon Ayuk. Just if it was a matter of health, it wasn't a healthy scratch. It wasn't like performance. So be ready for him to be there week 2, in a great matchup. And so I would keep him.
All right, yo, let's close this one out. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for rocking with us. Hopefully you made it through week 1. You know you're definitely going to make it to week 2, so keep vibing with us, keep rocking with us, and we're going to lead you to them chips, man. That's what
Yes, sir.
that's what we strive to do for sure. Greg, let's get out of here, man. Have a good one, everybody. We'll catch y'all later, and we will talk to y'all on Wednesday/Thursday for the Thursday night preview. Later.
We out.